NFL is back. And last night, the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Houston Texans, a final score of 34-20. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am very impressed by what I saw at Kansas City. There's two takeaways I had from last night's game that are really non-game related. The first one is, overall this season, coaching is going to matter more. I've said this so many times on this show. I've said it so many times on Black Squirrel Radio when I was on there. I've said it all the way throughout the summer. The NFL is the sport where coaching matters the most. We all know that. However, particularly this year, and let's be honest, particularly in the first 4 weeks of this season, usually September, coaches like Bill Belichick and Sean Payton, if you're 2-2 in September, they're okay with that. They like to take September as kind of feeling out process, try new guys, try new formations, see how they can play defense, see how they can play offense, and then they start molding into mid-season form, and you really don't know how good the football team really is until November. Well, because of the COVID situation, and we saw it again last night, Andy Reid's football team in Kansas City, I know they brought back 20 of their 22 starters on defense, but 20 of their 22 starters overall, just not on defense, because there's only 11 on defense. But Andy Reid overall was more prepared than Bill O'Brien's Houston Texans. Okay? Bill O'Brien looked like a complete mess from the opening jump. The Texans looked like a complete mess. And Bill O'Brien, I bet you right now that you're wishing that you still had DeAndre Hopkins instead of a broken down David Johnson. Now I get it, David Johnson had 11 carries, 77 yards, and a touchdown. But it didn't matter. Why? Because the Chiefs' game plan around the Texans was better than the Texans' game plan according to the Chiefs. Now I get it, man. The Chiefs are loaded. They got Patrick Mahomes. They got this new rookie running back out of LSU, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who, my goodness, looks like the rookie of the year already in the National Football League. I mean, the guy was a beast. The guy had 25 carries for 138 yards last night, with over 5 yards of off and a touchdown. They got Tyreek Hill. They got Sammy Watkins. They got McCall Hardman. They got Demarcus Robinson. They got Travis Kelce. They got all the weapons in the world. I get it. But Houston last night just looked completely unprepared. Their best defensive player, and I would argue their second best player on the team, J.J. Watt, only had 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle, no sacks. They didn't sack Patrick Mahomes. They barely got any pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They didn't make life difficult. They played zone coverage. They let Travis Kelce pick them apart. Travis Kelce had 6 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. I mean, the game plan to me was a bad game plan. The second thing particular that I noticed last night was and again, it was only a 1-game sample size, so we are going to have to go off this week and next week and a couple weeks after. But I gotta say this, man. To go along with the fact that coaching is going to definitely matter, especially as I said, the first month of this season, the better coaches... I mean, this was a bad night for the preseason is necessary crowd. Now, I was one of those people. I said, man, you got to have at least 1 or 2 preseason games. And there's a lot of guys that are going to lose jobs because they don't have their opportunity to shine in that 4th preseason game. Preseason is where you build your special teams. Preseason is where you practice not holding, not committing penalties. My goodness, like I said, Andy Reid's team, 1 penalty for 5 yards. It was 1 false start in the 3rd quarter. That was it. They weren't penalized in the first half. Now, Clete Blakeman's crew, particularly, is one of those crews who don't call a lot of flags. I understand that as well. But you got to understand, man, the Texans were jumping off sides. They were committing false starts. They were holding. They were illegal contact. So there were penalties to be there. And by the way, there were some times where I thought, the Texans moved early and they didn't call it. And so it's preseason for the officials too. But at the same time, man, I thought the Chiefs were just overall better prepared. They were better coached. They're the better football team, and that's what comes down to it. And quite frankly, I feel terrible for Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson last night was 20 of 32. He had a completion percentage of 63%, which isn't great, but it might do you enough to win a football game if your defense is good. Well, he had 253 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. He did carry the ball 6 times for 27 yards and a touchdown. But besides Will Fuller had a good game, he got 8 balls for 112 yards. That award, that's actually number 1 wide receiver numbers. Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks combined. Remember, they got Randall Cobb over from Dallas in free agency, and they traded with the Rams to get Brandon Cooks. They combined for 4 catches for 43 yards. That won't cut it. 2 guys only catching 4 balls, that won't do it. Darren Fells and Jordan Akins are 2 tight ends. They did have a touchdown, but between them, only 4 balls caught. That won't do it either. And, I think Al Michaels and Chris Collins were singing on the broadcast. The Texans' idea of trading DeAndre Hopkins was, okay, we're not going to let Deshaun Watson get it. We're going to dump it down. We're going to move the ball. We have pretty good wide receivers. But in my opinion, man, trading DeAndre Hopkins, and we saw it last night, in my opinion, was a monumental error by, in my opinion, the worst general manager in the league. He's also a bottom 5 head coach and a bottom 5 offensive coordinator in Bill O'Brien. Deshaun Watson is a special talent, man. He kept fighting. He kept producing. The Texans tried to make it interesting late. But by then, the Chiefs were like, this team stinks. I mean, David Johnson, like I said, he was able to move the ball. And miraculously enough, the Texans actually ran the ball 22 times. They only threw the ball 32 times. In a game that was a blowout for most of the game, you would actually expect that run-pass number to be a little bit less balanced. I know 10 passes is a lot more than runs, but I'm talking like I would expect it to be almost, 42-12. You're getting blown out by that much. Offensive minded, I would think that, but that wasn't the case. On the other hand, Kansas City, they actually ran the ball more than they threw it. And remember, last year, they became the first team ever to win the Super Bowl with, less than 25 carries a game. They were the 6th fewest carries in the league at 23 a game, and they won the Super Bowl. And now they can run the ball with this Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, this team looked very good. Them and the Ravens look like the 2 top favorites in the AFC. But by far, man, the Chiefs. I mean, we know a little bit how you can stop Baltimore. Load the box. Make Lamar Jackson throw the football. If he beats us with his arm, that's fine. We're not going to let him beat us with his legs. The Chiefs, you're like, man, if we blitz, Patrick Mahomes is going to tear us apart. Man, if we play zone, Patrick Mahomes is going to tear us apart. So, in my opinion, you almost got to play 4. You got to play like nickel cover 2 man, and you just got to hope that your cornerbacks are fast enough and keep up, and you have a good safety who can go man up with Travis Kelce. I think that's your best plan. You got to try to contain Mahomes and keep him in the pocket, because when he's on the outside, he's as dangerous as ever. But, man, I felt bad for Weaver last night, the new Texans defensive coordinator. I feel bad for Gus Bradley, the Chargers defensive coordinator, next week. I feel bad for Wink Martindale, the Ravens defensive coordinator in week 3. And I feel bad for every defensive coordinator that has to face Patrick Mahomes, because this guy, remember last year when Patrick Mahomes said he was just beginning to read defenses? Man, what a scary, scary time it is to be a fan of no other team besides the Chiefs in the AFC, besides maybe the Ravens. I mean, this team is special, and they could go all the way this year. They are potentially the Super Bowl champions at the end of 2021, and they may be the first team to go back-to-back since New England in 2000.